Ready, Mary?
Me.
Go. All right. At this time, I'd like to call the Physical Services Committee to order. Please call the roll.
Counselor Van Buren.
Here.
Counselor Emmons.
Here.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Here.
Counselor Gozick.
I get a motion to approve the minutes of the January 4th, 2016 committee meeting.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick. Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Is there any old business to come before this committee? Seeing none, moving on to new business. Item number 1 under authorization, Thomas Kells, DPW Commissioner, received a request from Jennifer Lacerdo on behalf of the Oswego City/County Youth Bureau requesting use of public space in West Park on Saturday, March 26, 2016, beginning at 11 a.m. to host an Easter egg hunt open to the community. There's an attachment. Commissioner.
I'm under the understanding that this yearly thing, so I have no problem with it.
Any questions or comments?
You good?
Chair,
Councilor Walker.
Ms. Lacerdo's here if she wants to speak on it.
If you could.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick. Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Moving on to item number 2, Thomas Kells, DPW Commissioner, received a request from Lorelei Wallace for permission to use public space in Brightbeck Park for a graduation party on Saturday, June 25th, 2016, from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. to include DJ.
Again, council is pretty much a common thing that we do. I see no problems with it.
Question. Is the request for just the pavilion area of Brightbeck or for the whole park?
Just the pavilion.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick. Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Item number 3, Thomas Kells, DPW Commissioner, received a request from Cassandra Lembo for permission to use public space in Brightbeck Park for a wedding venue on Saturday, July 9th, 2016, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. Ceremony and reception to include the placement of a 40 by 80 tent, food to be catered by Fried Chicken Catering. Alcohol will be served and purchased by Ms. Lembo from Eagle Beverage, and they have hired a DJ. Commissioners, do you know if they got in touch with the chief about the
I do not know at that time.
Just see that they get that part of it.
Chief?
Also, do they need a waiver for the noise banning? Do they need a waiver for the noise banning? We're going to 11. Thanks a lot, Chief. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
And we need a resolution.
Item number 4, Mayor William J. Barlow Jr. received correspondence from Susan Deary representing the Oswego Lions Club. They are holding their 5th annual Rivers Edge Craft Show on Sunday, June 12th, 2015, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., and are requesting use of Brightbeck Park. They are also requesting use of the city bandstand, waiver of the noise ordinance, waiver of the open container ordinance, use of 2 parking lots, one for vendor parking and the other for the public. Lastly, they are requesting permission to place several A-frame signs at various locations advertising the craft show. The signs will be displayed for 2 weeks prior to the show and will be removed immediately after. Ms. Deary.
Mr. Chairman, I'll defer to Chris Feldman, who's here tonight, she's the chairman of the craft show committee. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Last year, my name is Chris Feldman. On behalf of the Lions Club, I want to say thank you for allowing us to use the parking lot there. Moved to the West Whittier Park for 2 years. This past year, we have moved to Right Back Park simply because we got previous parks in the past. Right Back Park was fabulous. We have received so many comments, compliments, and definite positive views on how well the festival was, and of course the beautiful sights and sounds of our city. So we're definitely asking to be able to use that park again this year, because already we're seeing that it's becoming bigger and better. So we're requesting it again as well.
This has gone on for several years, and they've done a fantastic job organizing the event, participating with the city, coordinating with staff. This has grown quite well. I look forward to having this event again. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take the motion.
Motion.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
And we need a resolution?
Item number 5, Nathan Emmons, representing Warm Up Oswego Festival, is requesting use of the pedestrian bridge over the Oswego River for fireworks on Saturday, February 6, 2016. He is requesting closure of the bridge to pedestrian traffic from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. for proper setup, execution, and teardown of the fireworks apparatus. Barricade is requested for use to close the bridge. Staff will be on site throughout the duration of the setup, execution, and teardown of the fireworks upon arrival of the contracted company. Access to the bridge will be needed from the East First Street side of the bridge.
So Warm Up Oswego is in its 11th year, and I believe this will be the 11th, maybe the 10th year that fireworks are anticipated to be part of the festival. Fireworks have been set off pretty much in the same location for the past 10 years, and it requires closure of the pedestrian bridge leading across the Oswego River. I've been in contact with the chief, both chiefs, DPW as well, regarding this. You have a packet that's been given to you in terms of location exactly along the pedestrian bridge where it would come off, certificate of insurance already presented as well, along with the names of the folks that would actually be firing the fireworks themselves. So it's the same company we also have been used for many, many years. It's my 4th year with Warm Up Oswego. I don't think we've had issues with this company nor with the location in the past, but there's always some concern regarding wind in that location, and so that's something that we all have to be cognizant of given that location.
Any questions or comments? Nelson?
I would defer to the chief. Good question.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll take the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
I abstain.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
And we need a resolution? Counselors?
Is there any other business to come before this committee? None? Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Counselor McLaughlin.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to have the Planning and Development Committee to order, please.
Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Gozick.
Here.
Counselor Cordino.
Approve the minutes for January 4th, 2016.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Counselor Cordino.
Yes.
Okay, old business, seeing none, we'll go on to new business. The Mayor's Office received a request from Mercedes Neese, representing the Oswego Lighthouse Committee, requesting permission to present their annual lighthouse update. Mercedes states handouts will be provided for the presentation. Mercedes?
Good evening. I'm Mercedes Neese from the H. Lee White Maritime Museum at Oswego, and we lease the Oswego Lighthouse from the City of Oswego. It is your property. We lease it, and our mission is to conduct the restoration and also the interpretation of the lighthouse. We have agreed to give you a report every year. To be honest, we didn't do it last year because it would be later in the year, and at that point, we were going to have 4 new council members and a new mayor. So we thought that we would wait until now so that everybody's kind of up to speed on what's going on. So we're very proud to tell you about our accomplishments. A lot of the volunteers that work on the lighthouse are sitting right behind me, right here. You want to stand up, everybody? These are just a few of the people that put in an awful lot of time at the lighthouse during good weather and scrape and paint and fix and repair. And they're all, area residents, and we're very proud of them. So I'm going to ask Ted Panyatov to come up. You've been given a packet ahead of time that Ted has prepared for you. So if you have any specific questions in regard to the restoration effort, Ted, please come up. Ted Panyatov, he's the chair of the Restoration Committee. And if you have any questions, it shows what we did for 2015 and our plans for 2016. Bless you, bless you. Do you have
No questions?
Well, if you'd like to tell everybody
give them a synopsis?
some updates that we are going through and
Okay, well, I can
intentions to what we planned.
just go through real quickly. We just talked just quickly about our accomplishments, and it's really kind of significant, the community involvement. We got out to the lighthouse 31 times for working trips. There were some other times for other things. There were 32 individual volunteers that participated. Some made a few trips, some made virtually all of them. But we worked close to almost 800 man-hours of work, 782. We maintain a log of when we go out, when we come back, and who's out there working, so we know that. Also, we do work on shore, things like repairing windows and things like that we can take out and bring ashore. We probably put in another 150 hours of that type of work. One of the groups that I want to specifically recognize, and I don't see any of them here tonight, maybe, is the SUNY Oswego University track team, and they have put in a major effort. They've sort of adopted the lighthouse as a community outreach project, and in September, when they get back to school, and on into the middle of October, they usually get out there once a week. We sort of broke our record of not having any accidents, and one person did slip off a windowsill and fell down. But the other thing is we always check to make sure that there's been no unauthorized entries into the building, like there were back a few years ago, and people were doing vandalism in there. And so far, for now the last couple of years, there have been no indications that anybody has gotten in there. Some of the things we worked on the next page, basically we've been concentrating on the first floor. That was sort of the living quarters, and then also up in the tower above that. And we've done 3 of the 6 rooms are essentially complete. The other 3, we've made substantial progress. We also got some work done down in the basement, and also some of the work on the exterior. There's a lot of exterior work that we can manage with volunteers, and we've been starting to work on that. There's some pictures here. You can see a little bit about what it looks like inside, and kind of how things are going. A picture of some of the exterior work we've been working on. Some of the folks doing the work here. You might recognize a couple of the people that are in the pictures that are here. And so what we plan to do next year, I've got it broken down into the work we're planning for volunteers and the work that we're looking to do. through the city, because the city will be getting the lease or the grant, and they'll be letting the contracts. But the volunteers, will be working on the first floor, still finishing that up, and then starting down in the basement. And that's going to be a big effort. The basement is a room practically as big as this, not quite so high ceilings, but they're 16-foot ceilings. You can get an idea of the challenges there. And then with this new grant that we are anticipating, we'll be able to repaint the roof and the exterior walls, which really are needed, and some other exterior work. And then there's some pictures here of the planning work. And one of the things on the last page is we are moving along with plans for possible public tours, and we've made some physical implementation of that with fenders and a gangway system, and we're hoping that the planning relative to the boat continues along, and we're hoping to, on some occasions next summer, to be able to offer some tours to the local public. If there are any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer them.
See no questions. I think you're doing an excellent job with it.
Well, thank you.
Going for funding and doing something for the city
Yeah.
is the eye catcher of the league for us.
And at least last year we had an invitation for counselors to come out, and I'm sure we'll probably do that again this coming year. Please, come out and take a look and let us show you around what we're doing.
Please put me on that list.
One quick question.
Sure.
When do you foresee the completion of the project?
Uh,
I mean, I understand, there's
never.
very wonderful volunteers, and we don't want to overwork them.
Never. No, just to give you an idea, I moved here from Maine in 2009, and I was involved in a lighthouse restoration in Maine that started in the year 2000. They're still working on it. And it's just, right now we're actually, I'm being a little bit facetious, but right now we're actually redoing stuff that was done a couple of years ago. Out there in that environment, you paint, a couple of years later, you're starting to need painting again. And so, at some point we'll be going more into a maintenance mode,
Right.
but that's sort of,
Just like your house.
it's just like,
Yeah.
the story, and especially the environment out there. It's a very challenging environment. But,
And that won't stop us from opening to the public. Okay, this year is going to be a little bit limiting because we don't know with the grant that we're hoping to get through Senator Barkley's office, what limitations there will be while they're working on the exterior, because that is lead paint. There may be some limitations. We will only be open on a limited basis, but certainly council and the mayor gets a chance to come back out if he'd like, and Justin and whomever. I just think to see the city from a different perspective is going to be really exciting for you, and hopefully, obviously, good weather, not a day like today. We will make arrangements for you to go out there and accommodate your schedules. I do want to give you a copy of, this is nothing for you to consider, but there are major lighthouse organizations throughout the nation, also internationally, and Ted was able to get in a story about the lighthouse restoration in Lighthouse Digest, which again is a national magazine. Ted, what's their readership, do you think? I'm sorry to put you on the spot like
I
that,
have
but
no clue. But it's a magazine that's published in Maine by some folks up there that I know, and they do a super job. It's been 20 years maybe they've been publishing this magazine. It comes out 10 times a year, and they really do a good job.
We got a couple other handouts. Ted has a brochure that you can have for yourself or to hand out. I also have information about the third Lighthouse Challenge. This encompasses lighthouses from the Charlotte, Genesee region out of Rochester all the way to Clayton. All these lighthouses working together on this 3-day, and this year is a 3-day challenge. This is the same geographical area that the Marine Sanctuary will eventually encompass, and so we're already starting to partner with other county historic sites, in particular these lighthouse sites.
If I may, could I just make a comment? I would just like to commend the H. Lee White Museum for the phenomenal work they do promoting Oswego as a tourism destination. I think a lot of people lately have been getting on board with this, with the potential for the National Park Service status for the Fort Ontario and the possibility of becoming a marine sanctuary, which would be a unique distinction here on Lake Ontario. And I love the history of Oswego, but I think it's really an important piece of the puzzle, to promoting the city as such, and also hopefully attracting future development that could help to offset the tax burden on homeowners here. So I commend you because the work you're doing, I think, is valuable. Hopefully, future here will be a part of this revitalized. And as Mayor Barlow pointed out, this renaissance that we're hopefully going to be experiencing here in the next few years.
Well, we're hoping you get as excited as we are. So I will look forward to keeping you informed. And if you have any questions, just call us or email us or whatever. We'd be happy to come and visit, or if you want to come down and have a meeting, we're happy to do that anytime. I think that's what we have for today.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate all the hard work you guys are putting in. Keep us updated.
Yep, we got to get all of you out there. It's not scary, really.
They can't
Thanks
swim.
again.
So that's an issue.
Yeah, you don't want to spend the night. Absolutely.
All right, moving on to item number 2. Amy Birdsell, Planning and Zoning Director, is requesting use of public space on behalf of M&A Holdings of CNY LLC to install a sign at 132 Ellen Street, Zone R3 Residential. Attachment?
So this is actually not a use of public space request. This is actually just a sign approval. It's a unique sign because it falls in the R3 district, but it's a large commercial property. It's the gardens up on Ellen Street. So in this particular case, the sign goes to the planning board for an advisory opinion, which they gave a favorable advisory opinion last week. And now it comes to you for final approval, again, just because of the zone district that it's in and the nature of the business. So it looks like a very attractive sign to me as well, and fits along with the investment that they've made in that property, which is extraordinary. Do you have any comments or questions?
Well, when was the nursing home up there? They did have a big sign out front. So is it going to be in the same spot location?
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? Yes,
I went to the meeting this was presented, and I just want to say that I heard all the comments at the meeting, and I have no problem with this. This is a very attractive sign, and I was impressed with all the questions that you asked at the meeting of the owner at the meeting, and it was well thought out, and the presentation he gave was good, and I think it would be a nice addition to that property. I'm going to be voting for this.
Any other comments?
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Gozick.
Yes.
Counselor Corodino.
Yes.
All righty, move on to number 3. City Attorney Kevin Caracoli has prepared a proposed modification to the city charter with respect to city officers, employees, and residency requirements for such officers and employees. Modification adds a section 1 which authorizes the mayor to waive the residency requirements for an officer and employee when the strict adherence to the residency requirements would result of loss of officer or employee, or the inability to fill the position of employment by the best qualified candidate, this. I know what everybody's doing, and personally, everybody probably knows where I would stand, but I'll let Mr. Caracoli go forth, or Mr. Barlow, he's up. If you'd like to talk about this.
Thanks, Chairman. For the new counselors, what Mr. Counselor Walker is referring to is last spring-ish. He changed the law to require city employees to live in, I shouldn't say he because the council voted, but he led the charge to pass the law to require city employees to live in the city. What I found in my time as short time as mayor is that I don't quite understand. What I'm finding is it's difficult going through the interview process to really, in clear conscience, support this because, for instance, if I have 3 candidates who I have to interview, I don't understand why we would settle for second best because of where somebody sleeps at night. And at this point in time, looking towards the future, we should be trying to attract the best employees, the sharpest employees, the most talented employees, no matter where they live, to come here and work on behalf of the taxpayers. And this law, sooner or later, will prevent the mayor from doing that. So this is something I work with the city attorney with. And first, I'll just say my first option, and what I would prefer more than passing this tonight, is just repealing the law that took place last year. And if we have enough votes to repeal that law, that is what I prefer, and I think that would be the easiest way to go about it. If you can't support repealing the law, this is the second best option that I think, and that's giving the mayor the authority to waive. And what that does is it gives me the authority, being the mayor, being essentially the CEO, being the person who hires, fires, and manages personnel. It gives me the authority to make an exception and waive. That way, if I am standing and interviewing candidates, I have the ability that if I have, let's just say, as you know, we took codes out of the fire department and we are creating a code enforcement office. Number one, I'm not sure if I want a code enforcer from the city of Oswego, but that's besides the point. But the main point is, why would I settle for the second best qualified person just because of where they sleep at night, where they live? That's just an example. Another example is our community development director. Does anybody think we should have passed up Justin and settled for somebody who may not be as qualified or have as good as credentials or be as capable as Justin because they live in the city? I think Justin in his short time here has already delivered in several different areas, and I just imagine if we had this law when we hired him. So that's about all I have. Like I said, I think repeal would be the easiest way, but if we can't support just repealing the law, then this at least gives me the authority to use my best judgment and pick the best employee to come work for the city. I'll take any questions, and when it's appropriate, I'll let Kevin or city attorney answer them.
Yeah, well, I guess if I could speak, as a matter of principle, I'm in favor of the residency requirement because of the fact that the vast majority of constituents, in my ward anyway, and people I've talked to, feel that, if you're working for the city of Oswego, then you should live here, you should pay taxes, you should be part of the community. But at the same time, I also feel that we need to be pragmatic, and I agree with Mayor Barlow that we need to find a way in order to attract, the most qualified and best people for the job, especially when we talk about like high-level officials in the city government, department heads, and such. So I was going to ask, because I'm new here, but I was wondering if it would be possible to have a modification made to the local law that would, I guess, in essence, waive or make it go across the board for all department heads, because those positions are of great significance and you really do need someone who's qualified. And I understand that perhaps a lot of times you may not be able to find a qualified applicant living in a small town, at least now, like you had pointed out in your rationale, that in the future, hopefully as we make it so more young people want to stay, we may have a larger pool. you'd prefer to hire people from Oswego, but at the same time, when we look at, like you said, the law here, it's almost like we might as well just repeal it, because it basically, not that I think let me say this, not that I think that you're in a position where you want to abuse it. I think in order to keep someone like Justin, who's done a phenomenal job, and on all accounts from what I've seen, he's pushed forward our comprehensive plan and vision for the revitalization of our waterfront. He's attempted to put the house in order, so to speak, at the community development office. And I was going to throw out for discussion, is there the possibility so that in the future, say, what would stop a mayor from hiring anybody they wanted, where it has all employees, an officer or employee? I don't know if there are other councilors or the mayor or the city attorney would like to chime in.
I'm pretty much in the same basis, thinking about the same way the other counselor is. I see the opportunity for abuse. However, I'd like to work with the mayor and maybe rescind or repeal the law rather than bring this one in.
Any other questions? Well, I have one for the city attorney. In our charter, community development, we're not in there. Is he state funded, federally funded? Would he be exempt as the same way as fire?
In my opinion, no. And here's why. The city, anybody that's working in community development, even though funding may be received from state or federal sources or any other source, they're still receiving a paycheck from the city of Oswego. They still, in some circumstances, well, they're all subject to civil service, but some of those positions may be in different classifications of the civil service. And as a result, it all flows through the city of Oswego. The city hires those positions, and so therefore they're truly a city employee, therefore bound by residency requirements. I just don't see any other way around it in that regard.
Well, I do have another one. You say they're paid by the city of Oswego, so is it fire, sanitation, sewer?
Correct. There are certain state laws that exempt, in particular, the fire service. They can live anywhere. Our law does make them subject to residency within the county, but there is state law that allows for that. There are arguments, and if you look at the history of the residency law, previously police officers and DPW workers were allowed to live outside the area. I think a 50-mile radius, and now it's 15. Well, before it was 15. Now it's within the city. So you raise, or the law raises certain questions on fairness, candidly, asking for my opinion, and I do agree that this law change in waiving the residency requirement and giving the mayor the authority to do that does set up the potential for arbitrary decisions, right? Another way of saying, subject to whim. But that's the way it's written currently. There isn't a set of specific criteria that is placed in the law on what the decision-making process would be, and so that's something to consider. I would offer that a repeal of the residency requirement as it's written and effective in July of last year would certainly remove that degree of arbitrariness from the decision, and you essentially would apply the rest of the residency requirements as they are. So in other words, fire can live anywhere in the county, police officers within a 15-mile radius, as well as DPW workers. And that's that's not specifically before you tonight. If you wanted something like that before you, you could certainly make a motion to amend. We could amend the local law. This is not subject to, it's subject to a public hearing, but it's not, that public hearing wouldn't occur until, I think, February 8th. So there is some time to consider that, but I leave that to you and your authority. Further questions, I'm happy to answer.
Anybody have a question? Mr. Becker?
Thank you for letting me talk up here again. Bobby, thank you, okay. As usual, you bring up Albany with their gray area of law. Okay, Kevin? I don't know how you can enforce anything around here as far as residency. Take a look at the school district. Can they enforce anything over there? There's teachers living in Rochester. You know, they hire him for that school superintendent. They brought him in from Buffalo or wherever. I don't know how you can enforce anything. And if you pick on that community development guy here, Kevin, you and me are going to meet up, okay? Because that man is cleaning up the act over there, okay? She didn't do her job. As a matter of fact, she put the city away for about 10 years. So leave him alone. So, therefore, here we go. John, I don't mean to pick on you, but you teach in Pulaski. Is there a residency requirement up there?
Not as far as I know.
Okay, thank you. Gray areas, the state's noted for it, Kevin. You know that. Como doesn't know what a real law looks like. Thieves.
It's those darn attorneys. They paint in gray. And let me be the first to second your support of Mr. Rutgett. He's a wonderful addition to the city.
Any more? Yes, Mr. Cordino.
Well, I just wanted to bring up a point. You know, we're sort of like focusing on Justin here. This is not all about him. I think that you know, if you take his name out of the equation, or even Mayor Barlow's name out of the equation, and you look at the future, the year 2020, 2024, I mean, going forward down the road, how do we want to address this? I mean, there's pros and cons on both sides of this subject. But tonight, you know, we're talking about Section I, an amendment to this, and I think that we need to have some latitude, because in theory I agree that we should try to hire local residents for our jobs, but in practicality, I think the mayor, whether it's this mayor or future mayors, need some type of out to hire the best people for the job, because we would be doing a disservice to the residents of Oswego if we didn't, as far as I'm concerned. And again, taking the names out in the year 2020, 2016, I think it's only the right thing to do is to support this. I think we should support it. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Kevin brought up a good point. I think I thought about it. Kevin brought up a good point, and I think a total repeal of the ordinance the way it is what's required. Obviously, you want to hire best qualified individuals in any position, and in my opinion, it's absolutely ridiculous if you've got 3 candidates in there and they're not equally qualified, but out of the 3, you've got to hire somebody just because they live in the city. And I think if your executive the authority to hire the best person, having reviewed that, resumes, etc., and pick the person that's the best qualified for the job. It's already been this disparaging about police department, fire department, and others that live outside the city. So in a sense, you have already arbitrarily discriminated against the rest of the people, saying, okay, now you've got to live within the city. Yeah, we've got these other people who don't have to. It's fine. You can have a waiver, but in my opinion, a waiver leads people to suspect behind the scenes nefarious acts of picking. You take that out of picture and just repeal it. Let the mayor pick the people he has to work with, that he knows are qualified out of all the equals that apply for a job. If you want to back into your evaluation process of resumes to give more a point system to people that live within the city, and you've got equally qualified, then you can do that. But I think, in my opinion, I think the best situation is to totally repeal the law as it exists now. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with Bruce. I'd like to see, I mean, as you can see, there's been many revisions of this over the years. I'd totally like to blast the whole thing right out of there and start from scratch and make it fair for all the employees and easy for the mayor.
Do you know why it's different for the departments that you mentioned from 50 or 15? What the logic behind that?
The mayor said they had better lobbyists, and there is perhaps some truth to that. I think there's a couple of schools of thought. One, providing for your first responders the best candidates wherever that they may currently reside, particularly in the case of police officers that are actually patrolling the streets and investigating crime and making arrests. The theory is that you don't necessarily want to require your officers to live in the community in which they're patrolling and servicing, because it could compromise their safety, their family's safety, could compromise investigations and the like. So there's some logic behind that, and again, that is more of a state law than a city law. The city can be somewhat restrictive, and we have in that regard. In the case of the firemen, Oswego County residents, in the case of city police officers, 15 miles was the radius until it was amended last year.
Quick question. The vote that took place last year, May 11th, was when it was passed. We have 3 out of the 4 councilors still on council that actually passed that particular resolution. So I'm curious, we're not even a year later. I understand some of the complexities that are involved here, but I'd be interested to hear from the current councilmen that were part of that decision-making, that process, not even a year ago. Kind of just walk us through why it was passed at that time, given that I understand that we have some personnel changes that have been involved, but overall, we are 9 months out from this law already that was changed.
Thank you. Well, I'll start it. I spearheaded it. I think this is a community here. You work for it. If you work here, you should live here. People as taxpayers are paying your salary. You can say, hey, I'm paying this salary. You don't want to live here and spend time here. Syracuse, New York did that. How many people did they let go? They let 13 people go last year. They let people go. They did not live in the city. They didn't meet requirements. They let them go. So I've always been this way about this. And everybody in the community here. If someone comes here from Syracuse and wants a job, let him put his family down, be part of our community. I know there's people that do it now and work here, and they are being part of our community, but not the family.
Some clarification on the law as it currently states that new employee does have to become to doesn't have to be hired the way the first we still have the potential of hiring the best candidate if it was not considered.
That's correct. That's the way the law is written.
Sure. To Councilor Evans, question. At the time, and not to pinpoint a specific department again, but aside from Councilor Todd, I don't think there was another councilor on here that wanted to change the community development director's position than I did at the time that Mary was there. While the mayor was interviewing those candidates, Justin certainly took up front runner, and as the law stood at the time, he would have had to have lived here at the date of his hire. He would have, as soon as he started, he would have to be in the city. The 8-month change gave him time to look for housing and residence here and gave that window. So I supported it based on us getting a better opportunity to get these people in. We wouldn't have been able to do that. Justin wouldn't have been able to make the job without that 8-month window that we were going to get. And that was my reason for support. I'm certainly in favor of a total revamp. I would like to expand the borders to, say, the school district margins or farther, just to give people some options. Not everybody wants to live in a city for no other reason than they don't want neighbors or they have lots of pets or maybe they want, a large garden or farm type situation. Some people should be allowed to have a choice on preference. We shouldn't have to, here's your 8 square miles, you can live in here and that's what you want to do. Some people want, an acre or two in between them and the next house. That's fine. So I'm okay with doing something like that. I'd be more in favor of a total revamp than an amendment like this. And also, just to be frank, my major support for that was the 8-month window that it gave employees to find time to live within the area. So I'd be in favor of keeping that kind of thing if we kept some sort of radius instead of just
That was pretty much my way of going and to help support Councilor Walker at the time. As I said before, I'd sooner, at this point, instead of continually changing it from lack of anything else, from administration to administration or year to year, it's time to kick this one to the curb and get it done. Stop dealing with it.
I have one more. I was elected as a counselor in the 4th Ward. I have lived in that 4th Ward. And I live up in Scribe.
Not according to.
From what I understand,
not according to
that's
Section
actually
8.
not an option.
It says no. Right.
No, actually, actually, from what I understand, you don't necessarily have to. It's from what I gather.
Well, I'm moving out
You
to
actually
Scranton.
don't necessarily
Yeah,
have
Section
to.
8, right here it states in the local law and our charter, representatives of wards shall be residents of the wards they represent. So I would assume that means you gotta live there.
No, actually, I know what we're basing off of, but I believe there's election law. There's others that can speak to that better than I can, but I believe that is the case. I'm not.
No, other than, the law does say what it says now, and if you are a representative of the city of Oswego, you must reside in the ward. To Councilor Van Buren's point, requirements for holding office in New York State are attain the age of 18 and live within the jurisdictional territory in which your office that you're seeking. That's been, which is generally in New York State commonly referenced as New York State or perhaps the county. What the city has done is refined that to the ward specifically. But I think in a technical sense, Councilor Van Buren is correct. You could potentially reside, anywhere.
Mercedes Niece, 5th Ward, John Gozick Ward. I've been very involved with the County Tourism Advisory Council, and our county is phenomenal. And, I understand people living here. I would hope that people would move here after they got a job. I don't know what to say about boundaries. In this day and age, there's a lot of 2-income families, and if somebody could live still within the county, but maybe their partner had to work in Syracuse, they could still, afford to be within our county and work in the city, so you would still have more people to choose from for positions, but they could still, most people have 2-income families. And so this way the other person may have to work in another community in order to make their family work. So I I certainly encourage people to live in our community. Our greater community might be, 15 miles, or it might be the county or whatever, but to have restriction, I think really puts a burden on the work you're trying to do here, but also on the families that maybe, causes issues that one has to move in so much farther away than the other person's job. So it just can cause a burden to some of your potential employees. And then, of course, if you're going to do this, I would hope it would be retroactive to everybody else that works for the city of Oswego, because that would only be, I think, fair.
Other comments, questions? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Catherine Earle, I live in Fifth Ward, Ward. I would just like to point out that if the law were to be repealed, could there be serious conversation about, and I don't know if it's legal, including language that would say that in a completely fair situation with three candidates that were all equal, that possibly the Oswego City resident would be suggested giving points. It's a complicated situation, very troubling to me that people are possibly in the positions of the greatest leadership in the city, maybe the people who choose not to live in the city. But on the other hand, I completely see that we don't want to miss out on talented people taking a job. I also wonder if it's possibly legal to offer people an incentive to move to the city if they stay with their job. I don't know if that's tax-free days, we get all into the state and all kinds of other things. But just something that would keep the impetus of people coming to live in a community that can afford to buy homes, that can afford to pay taxes. It's almost as though the people who are at the highest level of salary are the people who are not. I'm just hoping that maybe there's things that be considered.
Thank you. Any other questions, concerns? Marla?
Just so we're clear, if we keep the public hearing for Monday, or keep the vote to schedule the public hearing for Monday, and the vote to schedule that public hearing is based on repealing the law, everyone's comfortable with that. I just don't want to move forward tonight. Counselors take phone calls, they change their mind, they do whatever it is that makes counselors change their mind, and we're in a dilemma next Monday.
Personally, if I can speak to that, I don't feel it's necessary to repeal the entire law. I think many people, I think the vast majority of people I've spoken to feel the way Councilor Walker does, that people feel that by and large the vast majority of the workforce should live in Oswego. We obviously, as well as I do, that the situation right now with jobs and the economy, is horrendous, and it just makes sense that for the fact that we're such a huge employer, not that the job of government is to provide jobs, I think it's to provide services, but under the circumstances with all the jobs that the city provides and the people of Oswego that have lived here, new people as well, anybody that lives here, whether they just moved here yesterday, or they've lived here for 200 years, you have, I think a lot of people would be outraged by taking away the residency requirement. But I'm going to stand where I was before, that I think what would be necessary would be to modify it for the top positions. I think that's understandable because of the weighty responsibilities and the higher salaries that are involved, not because of the fact that, I believe every worker who works for the city is skilled and obviously acts professionally on the job, so I'm not trying to put anybody down, but I just think for these highest positions, I agree with you 100%. We need to be able to tap the best, the brightest, and reach out and find the most qualified candidates that are going to help the city move forward. And so, that's my position. I don't know what the rest of the councilors feel about repealing it.
I guess I would just say a couple of different thoughts. I would hope that at some point, that Oswego is just going to be so robust that this conversation actually doesn't need to take place because people will just simply want to live here. That to force people to live here because of X, Y, Z, not sure if it makes a lot of sense. But someday, I think, we'll just have such a robust community that why wouldn't you want to live here? We won't have this conversation. Secondly, I think for some, and I think it's kind of where we're at today in the city, the city can't provide all the services that folks may need regarding the family life, for example. We don't have all the mental health facilities that one might need, physical health facilities. And so there may be external family issues that may prevent somebody from actually living within the city. So, I don't think it's as black and white as we try to make it out in terms of residency, this versus that. I think it's such a complex place, and I think we have to realize that we're not Syracuse, that may have all of the services available to support one's entirety in terms of their family, and that we need to have some flexibility within it. I agree with Councilor Van Buren that whether it's repeal or not to repeal, I'm not sure, but I think a more comprehensive look is warranted, whether we do this in the short term and then as a council, whoever needs to take this up in a more holistic approach, take a look at the entire requirements and then come up with a better process moving forward. I would certainly be in favor of that. Whether it's parking, whether it's this, whether it's that, I'm tired of having to kind of go back and kind of fix things, tinker things a little bit. Let's just fix it once and for all and be able to move on.
Possible to make a motion to amend it? I thought you mentioned earlier, I don't know if it was Mayor Barlow or Attorney Caracoli had mentioned that there's a potential to make a motion to amend.
We have to vote on this, though?
We have to amend it first and then vote on that.
We need to table it now, is it? I'm just...
From what I understand, what's here is an amendment. So
This
it's
is
what...
we want an amendment to the amendment. That's what you'd like to do.
I'd make a motion to make an amendment to the amendment.
What would that be? And we have to tell the city attorney.
Okay, well, I didn't word it right now.
Yeah.
Like I said, I would make a motion to amend the amendment so that we would waive the residency requirement across the board for all department heads that live out, so that they may live outside the city of Oswego. No? I mean, that's what I would.
Through the chair. Through the chair. Well, we department heads is one thing, but I'm talking about hiring, let's say a policeman. If I have two candidates who are going to be a police officer, I'm curious as to what you say, Counselor, to Chief DeCare when he has to send a partner out with another officer, and he knows that when he was with me through the interview process that there was another officer who was more than qualified. What do you tell the officer that has to go with the new hire who is essentially second pick? I just don't understand the making a difference between department heads and an employee like a police officer. Firefighters are exempt because of state law, but let's say they weren't. I mean, what do you tell the other firemen when you send in the new hired fireman who was second best during the interview?
I guess just from my experiences, I know several people that are actually in the academy that are actually live in town here that are applying to the police department right now, and I think we have a pretty qualified workforce here. I mean, that's why I would be willing to exceptions for like the highest positions, but I feel like I think that we could fill all these positions with people from Oswego, to be honest with you, that I think could do just as good a job, but under the circumstances with this case, so that would be my answer, I think by and large, like I said, as a matter of principle, the majority of people feel that we should have a residency requirement, and understandably so, because they work hard, they live here, and they pay so much in taxes already. And then most of them love Oswego and think it's a great place. That's why they live here. I mean, obviously, we all love Oswego. We have the most beautiful waterfront. We have great people, a great community, great schools. And I guess from my stance, I feel I need to represent the constituents. So I feel that I think we could find very qualified people that would do a great job.
So, Counselor, what do you say when I go to reestablish a code enforcement office and I put a job out to be a code enforcer, and nobody from Oswego applies, let's say hypothetically. Or we have a deputy director community development position posted right now. We have 3 applicants, not a single one of them live in the city. What do you say then?
I know, and that's why I feel that it is necessary for positions higher up, but I guess that would be, I mean, if we can't find anybody, there needs to be some, we need to look
Well,
at a way
that, now you're back to it giving me a waiver.
Well, if we don't have any applicants from Oswego.
Doesn't it make more sense to just repeal it?
You know, I mean, to a certain extent, I see your reasoning, but I feel that my constituents, and I know you voted the last time it came through when you were alderman in my seat here, Fifth Ward alderman, in favor of the residency requirement.
I was absent. I was in Hawaii.
You didn't vote? Okay. Oh, yeah, I thought.
I have a question for the attorney. Can we take a little recess, get our bearings together, and maybe have a discussion on this? Would that be possible?
I prefer not to go into executive session.
There's no reason why you can't recess to, kind of collect your thoughts. Candidly, I have prepared a slight modification to this that may, I'm not sure it'll necessarily address all of your points, Councilor Gozick, but I can have that printed off and present it to you in a matter of 5 minutes. I know the council has other business, another committee meeting to conduct, but I'd be happy to do that. I'll be very candid with you. It would propose to repeal the law that was enacted last year, and also take away the 8-month residency requirement, largely for many of the reasons that the mayor just laid out. So I'm happy to do that. I don't see that there's a particular basis for going into an executive session for that particular reason, Mr. Chair, but I do think it's entirely appropriate to recess.
Councillor Walker?
Yes.
Councillor Gozick?
Yes.
Councillor Cordino?
Yes.
Planning Development Committee, to the back.
Zoom, bro.
Okay, we're gonna. Yeah. Do we have to have a roll call to come back to order? Well, we're gonna. Please.
Councillor Walker?
Yes.
Councillor Gozick?
Yes.
Councillor Cordino?
Here. Yes. Okay, we did a little bit of talking, see what we're going to do with this, and Mr. Gozick would like to, has a motion on the table that he'd like to put.
Okay. After discussion, I'd like to make a motion to repeal local law number 1 as it stands now, with a commitment to rewrite the law with a comprehensive overhaul of the residency requirements.
I'd like to second it.
Councillor Walker?
Yes.
Councillor Gozick?
Yes.
Councillor Cordino?
Yes. All righty, thank you. Any other new business? Okay, I got to go back to old business. I missed old business. Anybody for old business under this committee? Oh, sorry.
Through the chair, I'm sorry. I want to be clear on the motion that Councilor Gozick made. I thought I heard you say to repeal local law 1 of 2016. There is no local law 1 of 2016. What the motion or the action that's being proposed would be to rescind the residency requirement as it's set forth in the city charter currently. That would be local law 1 of 2016, but what it would do is remove residency as a requirement of employment for the city of Oswego in all positions at this point in time. And I think your comments to study it as a more comprehensive law or rule for residency, taking the time to do that, is an exercise that we can do. But I just wanted to be clear that there is currently no local law number 1 of 2016.
Okay, I was just going by the heading here, so I stand corrected. And
So I just want, and I would encourage you to just reconsider your vote with that knowledge, that what you would be doing, the proper form of your motion, I believe, would be to repeal the residency requirements as contained in Article 2, Section C201 of the Charter. Okay?
Like me to restate the motion?
I'd restate it.
I would recommend
Okay,
that.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, I'll give it a whirl here. Okay, then I'd like to make a motion to repeal the residency requirement as it stands. We'll be amending Section C201 of the City Charter. Article 2, Section C201 of the City Charter. And again, with a commitment to rewrite the law with a comprehensive overhaul of the residency requirements.
I'll second that.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Goza?
Yes.
Counselor Cordino?
Yes.
Okay, now we go back. No more new business, and I'll go to old business. I missed that last time. Yes, ma'am, state your name and business. If you're loud enough, no, but...
Hi, my name is Janine Pitters, and I live on West 5th Street. I'd like to talk to you guys about I'm opposed to the banned parking that you guys have, and I'd just like to state some of the things that that reflect my situation. I have no parking. I have no driveway, and right now I've been fortunate enough to have the neighbor behind me offer parking for me. However, they don't plan on staying there forever. They're going to be moving at some point. And then what are my options? Where am I supposed to park? When I moved there, I was a single mom with 2 kids. And when they changed the parking law so we could have alternate parking, both my kids have cars now. So now we have 3 cars, no parking. If I wanted to have parking in front of my house, I would have to move my sewer line, my water line. I'd have to build a big retaining wall. I'd have to put a driveway in, and it would be very costly. And I came to you guys when I first bought my house in 2011, and I got a permit to put in a driveway because I really wanted to do it. I really wanted to have parking at my house. But when the guy called me and told me the estimate, he said, I'm up to $50,000. You want me to keep going with this? And I just said, I'm sorry, I can't afford it. And it's very costly for me. And I was so excited when you guys put in the law that we had alternate parking. And it worked great. And I didn't see any issues on my street. And I also would like to advocate for other people, just besides me. Most of my neighbors have only 1 space to park. What are families supposed to do with a husband and wife and a kid who all has a need for parking spots? And I think that I live in a really beautiful neighborhood, and I think it's really tacky when I have to see all of my neighbors parking in the front yard on the grass when they could be parking on the street. And I understand that sometimes it's hard for other people to be able to park or for the snow plows to get through. And if that's the case, I'd like to ask that let's tow them if they're on the wrong side of the road. Do what the city needs to do. But we need to offer parking to all residents. And I also would like to advocate for elderly people. Or what about single moms? Or people like my fiance, he just had knee surgery. Where's he supposed to park? And how far away should he have to park? And come up to my house with a cane? What about single moms who have little kids? If they're supposed to park several blocks down the road in order to get to their house, what are they supposed to do? Are they supposed to bring their kids in the house, leave their kids in the house, and then go park their car and leave their kids in the house? Or are they supposed to take their kids with them down the street and then come back in a stroller? in this extreme cold weather that we have. I just think it's crazy. I don't think it's a good solution. And I'd really like to ask the city that we go back to alternate parking.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
My name is Mark Consperi. I live with 54 West North Ford House. So we have a big parking lot that we're letting teams park in. It's great, but that's not a permanent solution. So whenever we sell our house, that's not going to be something that can be used as support. So we've seen a great renaissance in Oswego with people wanting to move here, and Tom and I have renovated several houses that we sold to young families, so we're excited about that. I understand that the parking was broke, so it's certainly understandable that the mayor had to do the ban. You know, it's unfortunate that people couldn't make the old system work, but it seems like there wasn't any will to change under the old administration. So it's very important that we make the city attractive to people, and a lot of our older houses are not going to provide parking opportunities for people that live a modern life with 2 cars or even 3 cars. So I understand that the ban may have to stay in effect for this year until we come up with a better solution. But I hope that everybody, and a lot of people have listened to me, and somehow I've become like sort of a leader of this cause. And I think it's really important, and it's not important to everyone, but it is important to the new people that we're going to attract, that we have a parking option available to them, because we are really on the cusp of a huge amount of people wanting to move to Oswego, which is very exciting.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Rogers. I live on West Fifth as well. I'll keep this brief. I agree that we would love to have the alternate parking come back. I also understand that there's more than just a couple of issues that need to be addressed. I'm more than willing to help in whatever process has to be gone through to come up with the ultimate solution. I mean, that would be nice, but there's going to be a lot of work that's going to need to be done, and we'd be happy to help with whatever needs to be investigated, completed, tallied up in order to get to a final decision that will stick for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I take a couple more things?
Yes, sir.
Change is never easy, and the change to the alternate parking was obviously a fail. And so it's going to be difficult to change, but we need to move forward and live in a modern city which provides the amenities that people are going to require. So I understand the change is hard, and I would like to help any way I can to educate people on why people need this option. Because things I hear like on Facebook, through social media, just attack people. Why did that lady buy that house with no parking? Stupid question, I mean, because what do you want to happen to that house? I mean, tear it down, so that's really not available. What did they do 3 years ago? I mean, they parked on the lawn. I brought a couple pictures that I took today, not for that purpose, but I drove down Senate Street, and there was a really nice old house, car parked on the lawn, almost in the yard. I mean, almost on the porch. It looked terrible. If you're going to attract people that are going to want to buy houses here, they don't want to come to town and drive around in the winter and see, that type of atmosphere. So it's a difficult situation, and we are going to have change. Is not easy. That would be what I'd like to say on that.
Thank you. Again, next week is the public hearing on that at 7 p.m. I believe it is, right here. Monday. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I would have to speak on the
Yes.
permission to send out
Sure. Are you going to read right through this whole thing tonight? Well, I'm going to add, next week's the public hearing. I mean, it's not going to change. I'll let you. Yes, go ahead.
Councilors, I stand before you today to express my concerns about on-street parking in the winter months. As a longtime resident of the city, I have experienced firsthand the disadvantage of no off-street parking and the privilege of a home with off-street parking. I have dealt with the full-on ban and alternate side parking, and I have to say that going back to alternate side parking seems ludicrous to me. Our roadways were not safe. Because of the chaos created by the alternate side parking, snow removal was not able to be performed properly, leaving snow on the roads around the clock, and the DPW workers, the inability to cut back the banks within the same day, which means that when they finally were able to push back the snowfall on those sides of the street, those residents would find mountains of snow in the end of their driveway, preventing them the ability to leave without first it clearing out, days after they had already cleared their driveway from the initial snowfall. Instead of clearing the snow out of your driveway once, you are now looking at several days of cleanup. For an area that gets a decent amount of snow, any more than we need to be out shoveling on freezing cold days should be a concern. In my area, I noticed the problem perhaps more than others because I saw a neighborhood with a road wide enough to have cars parked on both sides of the street and be able to accommodate two-way traffic, go from that to one where we could barely get a plow through it one way. The frustrating thing to me was that not all that were parking on the road needed to. It was done because it was convenient. No longer did they have to play leapfrog in their driveways. One person could park in the road and the driveway to avoid moving the cars around when one person had to leave ahead of the other. I saw this as an abuse. No one who has the means to park their vehicle in their driveway should have been parking on the street overnight, and yet it happened all the time. The challenge of having a one-family unit turned into multiple apartments, each apartment having one or more vehicle owner, was also evident in my neighborhood. When you have a home that is overoccupied, it goes from having sufficient parking to next to no parking for the majority of its residents. When there is alternate street parking, they consume the roadways, making snow removal a challenge and our roadways unsafe. I hear a lot of people saying it's not fair to have homes that have no parking. It's unfair to park blocks away from their home. I would like to counter by saying it is unfair to park on the road overnight when you have no need, forcing those that do have to park on the street further away from their homes and making them have to park a block or two away anyways when the alternate side parking was in place. It is unfair to have pedestrians and drivers travel on unsafe roads. It is unfair to the person who is in a state of emergency to have to wait longer than necessary because the police, firefighters, and EMTs can't travel the roads fast enough because the uncleared snow on the road and the cars parked in the way are preventing them from getting to their destination in an acceptable time. Every second counts in an emergency. It is unfair to be contributing to this mess when you have a place to park your car off the street. In truth, it is not the alternate street parking that was the sole problem. It was the abuse of it that made it a failure. I will say it again, the alternate side parking ban was a failure. Just because alternate side parking works in some areas doesn't mean that it will work here. Each city has its own unique circumstances and issues, and as a result, the need for unique solutions. We shouldn't be looking in other areas with a desire to copy their ways, but rather an inspiration for improvement. There is no cookie-cutter solution. That is why we need you, counselors, to look at those policies, see what works and what won't work for our city, and make decisions, laws, and policies that will work for our unique little corner of the world. There are homes that truly need to have on-street parking an option for them, and I think that those are the homes that should have a special permit in order to do so, not the whole city, not the single-family home that is now overoccupied. A homeowner who has no driveway or place to park should be able to apply for a permit to park in their neighborhood overnight. In order to cut down on the abuse of the overnight parking, that person would be issued a color-coded permit sticker, which would be placed in the window of their vehicle for the season. Each ward would have their own color, proving to the police officer that they are indeed permitted to park in that neighborhood. Should that person want to park on the road overnight in a different section of the city, they would need to find a place other than the street to park their vehicle. Going forward, I urge you councilors to think very seriously on this issue, to vote for what you know is the best for the city and its residents. I choose to live here because of the unique qualities that make this city special. However, when there are policies that are put in place that make it unsafe and more difficult than necessary for the homeowners that pay the high taxes, support the local businesses, and do their best to scrape together what they have left to improve their homes, it makes it hard to want to stay. Thank you very much for allowing me to share my concerns with you today. Candace Baker of the Third Ward.
Thank you. Seeing that, can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
I'm sorry, did I have a second?
Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Gozick?
Yes.
Counselor Cordino?
Yes. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open the Administrative Services Committee meeting.
Counselor
Call roll.
Cordino? Counselor Cordino?
Here.
Counselor Van Buren?
Here.
Counselor Reynolds?
Here.
Counselor Walker?
Here.
Counselor Emmons?
Here.
At this time, I'd like to get a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on January 4th, 2016.
Second.
Counselor Cordino?
Yes.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Under old business, any old business to address? Seeing none, I'd like to go to new business. Under authorizations, number 1, Jeffrey McCrobrey, Fire Chief, is requesting permission to hold a blood drive through the American Red Cross on Wednesday, March 2nd, 2016, from 12 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the East Side Fire Station. The blood drive is open to the public. Chief?
Thank you, Chairman. It's about our third or fourth year we've done this. They're highly successful. We want to invite everybody, if it gets approved, to join in and for a good cause.
Any questions, comments?
Counselor Cordino?
Yes.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Item number 2 under request for travel, Jeffrey McCroby, Fire Chief, is requesting permission to send 4 personnel to the Northern Adirondack Code Enforcement Officials Conference to be held February 29th through March 3rd, 2016 in Lake Placid, New York, and 1 personnel to train the trainer in Montour Falls, February 24th, 2016. The attachments? Chief?
Realizing there has been a change in code enforcement, we still do, according to the charter, the fire inspections of the public assemblies and the businesses and such. So these guys will be spearheading this for all our shifts, and the trainer one is for the BSIs, which is the lower level than the code enforcement officers. That I think we've got about 10 or 15 of those. They can train them in-house, is what the trainer will be doing.
Questions?
Chairman, I have one question.
Yes, Mr. Miles?
Thank you,
Mr. Miles.
Thank you. Okay. This summer I had somebody come up to me and ask me about a code enforcement fireman. Now his garage wasn't attached to the house by about 12 or 15 feet. Okay? But on the application, the fireman put down the garage was attached to the house. I'm not going to tell you who the guy was. I'm not going to tell you where the house was. But the garage was 15 feet away from the house. And he put down on the application that it was attached. I'm trying to figure out, this test that I've been hearing about this fire department is so tough, I can't understand what's going on here. Do they know if the house is attached to the house, the garage, or what? What's going on? And I'm not going to tell you what his name is. One of your friends, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Miles. Any other comments about the request for travel?
I'll make a motion.
I second.
Counselor Cordino?
Yes.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds?
Yes.
Counselor Walker?
Yes.
Counselor Emmons?
Yes.
Item number 3, Jeffrey McCroby, Fire Chief, is requesting permission to send 3 personnel, possibly 4, to to the New York State Fire Academy Recruit Firefighter Training Program, which will be held February 28, 2016 through May 12, 2016. See attachment. Chief?
We have two people we hired in August that are going for sure. We have offered employment to two potential recruits that we're waiting to hear back from. Among them, one of them is a federal firefighter that already has the academy training, is why it's between 3 and 4. Upon successful completion of his physical and accepting the job, it would be only 3. If something happens with him where he turns it down or whatever, we go to the next person that we want to hire, which would make 4 going to the academy.
Any questions? Comments? Seeing none? Motion?
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds.
Yes.
Counselor Walker.
Yes.
Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Item number 4, Deanna Asenzi Lafont, City Clerk, requests consideration for 11 companies that have submitted applications and have deposited with the City Clerk a required fee of $500 for a major hauler and $50 for a minor hauler for the 2016 solid waste license. Is she here?
Counselor, she was here. I excused her. I forgot about this item. Pretty big.
The only question I have, Mayor, maybe somebody else can answer this, just that, what's the difference between a major hauler and a minor hauler? I know there's a price difference, but what is essentially the difference? Does anybody know? Truck size. Truck size? Yes.
I think you did it.
Yeah, because I see on the attachment there was only one that was a minor hauler. The other 10 were all major. That was the only question I had.
Second.
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds.
Yes.
Counselor Walker. Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Item number 5, Susan Gentile Deary, City Assessor and Code Enforcement Officer, requests approval to attend the NYSEOC Central Chapter 11th Annual Education Conference to be held at the Holiday Inn, 441 Electronics Parkway, Liverpool, New York, 13088, March 29th through March 31st, 2016. See attachment. Ms. Deary here? Here she is. I have one quick question. I read over the material, and I was just wondering now, we talked about the fire chief is sending some people to Montour Falls, and I understand why they have to stay in a hotel, but it's only a 35-minute ride to that hotel from Oswego. Why is there a hotel expense?
Well, not my preference actually, but there are evening meetings, and considering it is in March, the weather could be inclement. We do have to be in class 7:30, 8 o'clock.
So it's not from like 8 to 5. You're saying there's some night.
There are evenings, and it wouldn't be my choice. I could be take classes, but I want to be the stone's throw
Any other comments or questions?
Counselor Corradino.
Yes.
Counselor Van Buren.
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds. Counselor Walker. Counselor Emmons.
Yes.
Okay, item 6 under discussion. Jeffrey McRobey, Fire Chief, is requesting discussion regarding tent, vendor carts, and propane inspection and permit fee for anyone operating in public space. This would cover festivals and events and helps with not only accountability, but the safety issues involved. See attachment. Chief? Oh, Mayor.
Thank you, Chairman. This is a small source of revenue that's something other than property taxes. What this is a permit system that requires mobile food vendors and folks participating in events like Harbor Fest, Pumpkin Fest, etc., to obtain a what they call fire or propane permit. 2 things about this. Number 1, we talked during the budget last season, how we can pay for some of the services we provide at these festivals and events, and how we kind of balance, the overtime we rack up during those events and just the basic services we provide. This is a way to do that that does not go after the actual event itself. For instance, we're not going after Harbor Fest, we're not going after Pumpkin Fest. It's actually a way to allow the mobile food vendors and those who participate in the event to pay for a service that they get. That service, and I know this and I implemented this because I'm a food vendor who travels around all summer long to other events. Typically what happens is when you have a mass gathering, the local fire department, it happens just about every event I go to, the local fire department comes to inspect your propane tanks, your hoses that connect to your propane tanks, your fire extinguishers, your Ansel system if you have one, and your fryers or cookers. Oswego is one of the very, very few events that I go to that does not charge essentially charge for that service. How you charge for that service, because you're paying for, the city is making sure that the mass gathering is safe. How you charge is you require a fire permit. So when I as a vendor show up, I need to beforehand, when I apply to go to the festival to sell food, I need to make sure all my permits are in order. One of those is the fire permit. Typically that's included in the application to the festival. They say, in this case, City of Oswego requires, under law, whatever the law is, requires you have a fire permit to operate within city boundaries. And that fee is again to pay for when the firemen come and inspect your unit to make sure everybody's safe. City of Oswego, like I said, is one of the very few municipalities I go to. They do the inspections, they do them at Harbor Fest, but there's no permit, there's no charge. This is a way where we can really, those guys are out, they could be on overtime, they could be on straight time, it doesn't much matter. If they weren't doing it, they'd be somewhere else. They're out doing that service, making sure we're safe, and this is a way to get some of the costs for the services we provide. And a special side note, this isn't going to apply to very many local businesses or local people, besides myself, I might add, because most of the food vendors that come to Harbor Fest, come to Pumpkin Fest, are out of town. So I don't see a real negative side to that. You're not taxing local restaurants, you're not attaching a fee to local places like, let's say, the Elks Club. They have a chicken barbecue that's not included. We're really being quite specific to food vendors who vend at events like Harbor Fest, Pumpkin Fest, the larger events that we have here. Included in your paperwork, the propane permit I'd propose is $50. If you have a tent that's larger than 10 by 10 or larger, you pay $25. So that's pretty similar to other events I go to. We kind of modeled this legislation after City of Syracuse. And Chief McRobey helped me on this quite a bit. City Attorney Kevin Caracoli and Assistant City Attorney Tom Reynolds, I thank them for their help on this as well.
Yes. I have one quick question. We had
Farmers Market.
Farmers Market. Do you charge them every week, or is it a one-time deal?
Annual permit.
Annual permit?
So for instance, I feel uncomfortable using myself as an example, but it's easy. Barlow's Concessions would apply for a propane or fire permit. I have a unit that goes to Farmers Market. I have that same unit goes to Pumpkin Fest. One permit works.
Any other comments, questions?
I do have a question regarding the tent size. So a 10 by 10 tent is a standard vendor tent size. So that's what we're proposing is, so for every vendor that was at Pumpkin Fest, the standard size for a tent is a 10 by 10 tent.
If you have a cooker of some sort and you're using propane underneath the tent.
But we're not talking.
No, if you need a fire inspection, then you fall under this. But if you're, let's say, you're selling caramel apples that were pre-made somewhere else and you're under a tent. You don't need a fire inspection because there's no fire.
So you don't need a tent permit then?
No.
Any other questions, comments?
Counselor Cordino?
Yes.
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds?
Yes.
Counselor Walker? Counselor Emmons?
Yep.
And we need a resolution?
Any other comments?
We need a resolution?
Need a resolution? Okay. Chief Roby? Sure. Do that? Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none? Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Counselor Cordino?
Yes?
Counselor Van Buren?
Yes.
Counselor Reynolds?
Yes.
Counselor Walker? Counselor Emmons?
Yep.